Good morning, Trump's family. Have a good day and God bless you. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. Now, another thing we know that they're trying to push on us is the Green New Deal. Now they couldn't pass a Green New Deal. So they've done it and watered it down and changed things and have pushed it through other things and are pushing it through other things like Inflation Reduction Acts that don't reduce inflation and increase spending. They do it through their other Build Back Better or Build Back Better light attempts. But here is this is an interesting failure, if you will, when it comes to the green agenda. And I'm not saying that this, I think this was the heart's in the right place. But the reality of the evil of China is very, very apparent in here. American solar energy companies are reportedly having difficulty complying with the UGA Forced Labor Protection Act, a law that went into effect in June requiring importers to prove their goods are not tainted with slave labor from the oppressed Uyghur Muslims of China's Xinjiang province. That's right. The failure I'm referring to here is that these solar panel companies are having woes. Because they can't prove that portions of their product were not produced using Uyghur slave labor. Can't make this stuff up, folks. The UFLPA, the UGA Forced Labor Prevention Act, has standards for importers to affirmatively demonstrate that no forced labor was employed in harvesting raw materials or assembling finished products. And everything imported from that region is presumed tainted, unless proof to the contrary is provided. According to the Wall Street Journal, the solar industry is running into trouble as well, with several shipments detailed. Excuse me, it says detail, but it may mean derailed or outright refused by U.S. Customs. Since the act took place, they cannot prove that it was not used, that late slave labor was not used, because ending coming out of there is assumed that slave labor is used. So this is contributing once again to increase prices up to 30% for solar panels in the United States, because they can't get new ones in and the limited inventory is getting snapped up. But don't worry about it if you're in other countries don't have this same act. And the importers or whatever are saying we're not going to worry about this, we're not going to just have it sitting in impound with customs, we're just going to reroute it and sell it to other countries. Another failure for the green agenda, right? Everything going solar, everything being renewable. But I'll give it a pass here because I think this is a good act, that we shouldn't be using products and raw materials produced, mined and assembled using slave labor. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because of my ancestry. I'm a little sensitive to it, or maybe as because I'm a Christian, and it is a vile, disgusting practice. We're all God's children, and should be treated as such. Meaning no man is above us. And we shouldn't answer to any man just because of their station in life, and we are automatically slaves. Okay, let's get into the meat of this episode. We've got two new huge updates when it comes to the FBI's raid on Trump's Mar-A-Lago. Now, if you've been here for a long time, you're on notice. You may notice that I'm taking a little bit pauses and breaks more than usual. We have a lot of new people here. And not everyone's used to my rapid fire way of speaking, which is not a big deal, by the way, because here on YouTube, you can control the speed of playback. If you want to get to the news quicker, increase the speed. If you want me to slow down, decrease the playback speed. But the biggest reason is I am trying to sharpen the saw and be even better at my job. My profession, sharpening the saw, going back to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I'm trying to decrease the amount of arms and ahs by taking pauses. Just thought you might want to know, so here we go. Trump FBI raid update number 1. The FBI, according to the Trumps, have been caught on camera. The FBI agents from Florida and Washington, D.C. spent several hours ransacking Mar-A-Lago in their fishing expedition. The dirty FBI agents went through Melania Trump's closet, nasty FBI panties sniffers. Apparently, they searched every room. They probably bugged the place. Trump has made that very obvious, and probably right observation and charge against the FBI. And the FBI has spent hours in President Trump's private office. Now here's what we're getting from Newsweek. Eric Trump said of the security cameras at Mar-A-Lago caught FBI agents behaving improperly during Monday's raid, alleging that investigators were accessing parts of former President Donald Trump's Florida residence that they shouldn't have been. So I guess the behaving properly is them accessing parts of the residence they shouldn't have been in, like the panties sniffers in Why else would you be going through women's stuff? I mean, you can quickly see that there's any documents there, but as reported previously, it is most likely about them getting the Crossfire Hurricane documents that Trump has there trying to CIA cover their assets. In an interview with DailyMail.com, Eric Trump said that because the staff refused to turn off the surveillance cameras at the request of the FBI, the Mar-A-Lago cameras captured agents reading areas they weren't authorized to. There's 30 agents, Therapy recalled yesterday. They told her lawyer, you have to leave the property right now, turn off all security cameras. Eric Trump said that the FBI refused to give Trump's lawyers Christina Bobb a copy of the search warrant by showed it to her from about 10 feet away. That's where the Daily Mail is reporting. He also said he would be thrilled to find out if there was a valid reason for the search. Very, very interesting. Now, Christina Bobb, you may remember her. She previously was on OAN, and she is an ally of President Trump, especially during 2020 when President Trump was being very active in his opposition to what the AP and the Decision Desk had concluded. We'll leave it at that, folks. I know it sounds stupid. But on this platform, we really can't say much more than that. A reminder to check out our other show where we're not subject to self-censorship. Head over to therealbcp.com, but this is what we have. Now The Hill actually published a hit piece on Christina Bobb, because of these reports that are coming out that Christina Bobb was not given the search warrants. Let me get into the details of this. The Hill. This is there. Who is Trump attorney Christina Bobb, who met FBI at Mar-A-Lago. When the FBI stormed former President Trump's Mar-A-Lago estate in Florida on Monday, agents were confronted by his attorney Christina Bobb, ex-U.S. Marine and a former anchor on the far-right news network One American News. Bobb arrived at Trump's. I know I'm reading it with a little bit of drama. I think The Hill wants you to read it this way, or wants people when they read it to read it this way. Bobb arrived at Trump's Florida retreat around 10:30 to find about 24 FBI agents rummaging through the former president's belongings. She was a senior legal representative for Trump during the raid at Mar-A-Lago, which has closed for the summer, but was ordered to stay near her car while agents swept through the house. She told OAN. The attorney has since, during the course of people speaking out against what they say is a politically motivated operation against a former president, mulling another run for office. Bobb told OAN the raid was a sham because authorities recently met with the former president, who she said had been very cooperative with the investigation. But why am I calling this a headpiece? Well, now we go. They talk about her being part of far-right OAN. They talk about how she has been a defender before and now illegally with President Trump's and his baseless claims. And they go ahead and talk about her quitting her job at OPM to work for Trump's political organizations, because she bought into his let's just call it big lie. When The Hill and everyone else is out to get Christina Bobb when they're doing hit pieces, that usually tells you these people. Alright, let's talk about the second big update from Trump's FBI raid. We have another update. And it's this, that the former attorney who covered for Jeffrey's employees and their trafficking charges, the same judge who signed off on the warrant used by the Stasi, Gestapo FBI to go into Mar-a-Lago, now is saying that the FBI must unseal their search warrant. This is very interesting. Okay, so, I reported previously that Judicial Watch has asked for the unsealing of this one. They want to see what's in there. Okay. The judge overseeing the case, Magistrate Judge Bruce E. Reinhart, quickly directed the U.S. Department of Justice to respond to Judicial Watch's motion to unseal by the end of next Monday, August 15. So then within the next less than a week, 4 or 5, 6 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 or 5 days. Bruce Reinhart has directed the DOJ to actually unseal the FBI search warrant. Quote, the government shall follow response to the motion to unseal. The response may be filed ex parte and under seal as necessary to avoid disclosing matters already under seal. In that event, the government shall follow redacted response in the public record. So you're saying they need to release it. There's anything in there they can release part of it redacting what they need to, but they need to get something out by next Monday. The far left, there's reporting that the Trump team has a copy of the warrant. But this is another media lie. This is what Christina Bobb said. And this is why they're doing a hit piece on her. Jump lawyer Christina Bobb, Told Real American Voice when I arrived and kind of announced myself as a legal representation for President Trump, I asked to see a copy of the warrant. Initially, they refused and said, we don't have to show it to you. And there was a little bit of an exchange about whether it was appropriate to withhold the warrant when you're searching the residence of the former president, who's likely to be the Republican nominee in the next election. So they can see that and let me see it. They did not give me a copy of it. But they did let me see it. It was very, I would say thin, as you can tell from public records, the affidavit, the supporting documentation of what the probable cause was to obtain the warrant has been sealed. They also said that they were looking for classified documents, evidence of a crime as far as classified documents go, Bob explained. It really doesn't make any sense. As the last thing she said. And once again, the fake media lie said, oh, she's got a copy of the warrant. They never gave her a copy of the warrant. They just showed it to her from far away. And her reading of it was very thin, at best. So that's the second huge update that we have from the FBI raid on President Trump again. The first was that the FBI was caught on camera being in unauthorized areas that they should not have been in that had nothing to do with the search warrant. And of course, number 2 is the judge ordering the unsealing of said search warrant. By the way, we're getting a little bit more details here on how this adjusts. This judge is a Trump hater. Facebook posts reveal that the Jeff-linked magistrate Bruce Reinhart's woke anti-Trump attitudes. And this is one of the things that is being reported. Among images that appear to be a Reinhart's Facebook page show Reinhart's praising the leftist Robert Reich for his criticism of Donald Trump, accusing the former president of lacking moral stature, and sharing a woke video about white privilege. And a Facebook post dated January 2017, Reinhart attacked President Trump for his comments about former congressman and false hero later in life. He was a hero, gotta admit, earlier in life, John Lewis. And they tried to hide this. But there's a little something called the Wayback Machine. And we're able to see what is hidden. Why do I say that? They took the post down, but it has been archived. And we have seen it. And in there, I warned about what the FBI may be up to as far as Americans and patriots wanting to take action and peacefully protest against what the FBI is up to. And then I talked about how we've already been labeled domestic terrorists and we push back against the tyranny of the current FBI and the regime in D.C. And then we have this exchange from FBI Director Christopher Wray, yesterday, speaking publicly for the first time since the jackbooted Stasi Gestapo descended on Mar-a-Lago. And he was asked by a reporter a question. And this is the question and his reply. And it tells you exactly what the mindset of the deep state is, to say press record. Former President Trump is raising the prospect of agents planting evidence in the FBI search at his residence at Mar-a-Lago, saying his lawyer's name for allowing observers search. Can you address that, particularly as many of the Trump supporters on issues are so-called arms and threats against your agents in light of the search? Well, as I'm sure you can appreciate, that's not something that I can talk about. So I'd refer you to the department. As to the issue of threats, I will say that I'm always concerned about violence and threats of violence against law enforcement. And that is a topic that I have been talking about frequently. Okay, he's worried about violence against the FBI and agents. One of there have been this kind of violence, the protests on this side have been peaceful. It's the violent extremists on the left, the BLM and the Antifa types that they should be worried about. But no, it's painting a narrative that being upset about this Stasi raid on a former president, which are totally banana republic, third world Marxist playbook. Actions by a tyrannical government being upset about that makes you dangerous. They've already labeled as domestic terrorists for wanting to honor the Constitution and the Second Amendment and other ones. They've already labeled as domestic terrorists for pushing back against critical race theory at local school board meetings, and now it's violent extremism to be upset about. The FBI's raid on President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. Or at least they're making it seem like there's a whole bunch of actions that may be coming against FBI agents because of this. Don't be surprised if we see some sort of flag of false origin against the FBI or one of her agents in the near future. I'm not wishing that to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if it does, do not be surprised. Thanks for being here, folks. Big hug. Ciao. Goodbye. God bless.